Well, hey, there, sailors. Welcome aboard. I'm your friendly neighborhood words of the week cruise liner shipboat captain, Mr. Mize. And I wanted to just go over real quick some of the things that I saw from your first reflection that were really good. That I'm going to try to see if we can get out of you as we continue with our new word of the week this week. So let's get started. Firstly, our word was a fun one. Cattywampus, there it is, the state of something being slightly off tilt, like you might feel like your teacher is slightly off tilt at times. But there it is, and I simply asked you guys to do some reflection on it. And I wanted to share with you some of the reflections I thought that were really strong and that stood out. So there were a lot. I narrowed it down to three, but I just want to go over them with you as good examples of ways that we can continue to do this activity moving forward. So here's one of them. Cattywampus, a word that means that something is a bit off. Well, where is the irony in that? Not only is the word very off, but the meaning is too. When I try to click the red lines under it, because even the internet finds it weird, it says no replacements found. I envision this word to be a very common words in maybe the late 1700s, but certainly not now. Now it is the 21st century, and only the words society used most commonly are the bad ones, if you know what I mean. And writer, I do know what you mean. However, in all seriousness, it is a fun name to spell and type, but if I were to use it, I wouldn't particularly use it around my friends. It would be something I would use for a college essay or something where I need to look like I have a high vocabulary. This word reminds me of a caterpillar name for some reason. When I look at it, all I see is nature, and more specifically, something magical yet strange like Alice in Wonderland. I do have to admit, though, I did enjoy this prompt and would gladly share this word at the dinner table and see what my foreign parents would think of it. So one of the things that makes this response really entertaining to read is there's a lot of allusions and references to other things. The writer makes a reference to Alice in Wonderland. Why exactly this word makes the writer think of Alice in Wonderland, they probably can't tell you, but they are willing to at least write that random bit of information in this reflection, which makes it interesting. This word reminds me of a caterpillar name for some reason. Again, there is no reason given, it just does, and that's fair. That's one of the things that's entertaining about this reflection. The writer does go into some of the history of it that they just read about, and they brought it in, but the reflection isn't just a history lesson, because we can all do a internet research on a particular word, but they found a way to incorporate that into the wider reflection. So well done. The next one, sample two, this word sums up the new scene I see when I look out the window, the park and the basketball courts, which are usually full of children and adults playing or biking or walking their dogs, are completely deserted. No cars are driving by on the streets. Instead of the sounds of children's laughter, dogs barking, cars driving by, and basketballs bouncing against the asphalt, there is silence, only broken by the wind whistling through the trees. This quiet, lonely view feels off and more like a scene from a movie and something that I would see in my normal life. Notice that the writer doesn't even include the word cattywampus in there in the reflection itself. They're just reflecting, and that's totally fine. Writer, I like how you use some of our sensory detail exercises in this. Wasn't even a requirement, but it showed up, and it just makes it for a much more pleasant read for your reader. And so thank you. And the last one I want to go over, cattywampus perfectly describes how my room is right now, and especially my desk. Because of all this coronavirus stuff going on, I don't go outside, and using my phone 24/7 is kind of boring. So I went back to making stuff. And by making stuff, I mean things that I can play around with, like darts or swords. Notice both are very sharp objects. But because I use popsicle sticks, not as sharp, my desk is always cluttered with chips and sawdust, and I'm always working, so I never got to cleaning it up. So basically, my desk is completely cattywampus, and I don't know if it'll be clean again. I mean, not only is it a mess, but everything is off and misplaced, causing a complete mess. So there are many things I like about this response. They do use the word, and they use it correctly, and they use it to describe the state of the affairs in their room. And I have so many questions. One of the marks of a good writer is to not reveal too much information. This writer does a good job of talking about these objects that they make, like darts or swords from popsicle sticks. I have all sorts of questions, and I'm going to ask those in the reading response. Your guys' comments that you can make. This is a response that is just opens itself up to all sorts of questions and comments from you. And so that's one of the things I really like about it. And they do use the word well, although that's not even a requirement to use the word in your actual reflection. So well done. A couple of reminders for us. Firstly, I'm just asking you guys to just put this word into thought for 5 to 10 minutes before you write anything down. Or if you want to write as you're thinking, that's fine too. That's a great way to think on paper, just to kind of go with the flow. But you might just want to just sit and think about it. I know that's weird to sit and think about a word for any period of time, but just try it if you didn't do that on that first round. I'm going to ask you guys to actually include the word count on the bottom. So I did that for the last 3 reflections. So 1 to 200 is what we're aiming for. 100 is really the lowest you really want to go. If you go over 200, that's okay. But that's really kind of the sweet spot window that we're going for in these. And again, include the word count. Just a reminder to do like a quick spell check or grammar check. Little I's for the word I. We want to stop doing that. Technically, you're not texting. You're still writing for a class. So I'm going to invite you to up your game, little I's, and you know who I'm talking about. So yeah, just be a little bit more picky about what's coming on. You don't have to change the style of your speaking. It should be very conversational, but just be mindful of some of those quick to catch spelling and grammar errors that you can spot. Play around, track your brain and where it takes you when you reflect on the word, even if it may seem silly. That's part of the fun of this activity. And I do want to emphasize the word fun, just thinking about words and where our brains go with them. And lastly, I'm going to encourage us to intellectually spar someplace else. Some of you want to get into really big arguments, and there's nothing wrong with a good argument so long as you're being respectful of all the audiences and such. However, this is not the thread to do it on. This is you to interact with each other in a much more lighthearted way. If you want to argue about a word's etymology and why you think it should or should no longer be used or this or that, that's fine. Just don't do it here, because not everybody wants to see that, me being one of them. Again, this is our first round, so if you went down the intellectual sparring road, that's fine. I'm just going to invite you not to do that for this next round. Speaking of the next round, here's your new word. Avant-garde, not to be confused with en garde, which is what people who play with swords, fencers, swordsmen, swordswomen, swordspeople, what they say out loud to get their opponent ready. No, it's not en garde, it's avant-garde. But I think en garde because I've watched a lot of sword fighting in movies and plays and things, and that's what they say. But that's not the same word. So in my reflection, I'm going to talk about that. But there's your definition: radically new or original, innovative. It could also be in the noun form, which I'm going to invite you to actually stay closer to the adjective form of this word for this reflection. But there it is, guys. I look forward to reading your responses, and your captain will see you soon. Over and out.